What's up, Burn Nation? Welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. Today, I am here with Emily March, one of our trainers in Burn Nation at the Hickory, North Carolina location. So I'm here in Hickory with her, and we're going to chat today about working out while pregnancy, some of the pregnancy misconceptions that women have, and her journey at Burn Bootcamp while also being pregnant and having children. So Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about, your experience with Burn, how you got started, and then, how you got into training and your pregnancy journeys.
Okay, so I was actually a trainer before Burn, and Carrie had reached out to me when she was opening the location here in Hickory. So my adventure started at Burn with as a trainer. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just learned it as we went along. But I had actually found out the day that she called me and asked me to train here that I was pregnant with my second. Mm-hmm. So I had to kind of tell her, like, look, I don't know how much I can do. I'm also a school teacher. But she just kind of made me feel very welcomed and got me started in the community of Burn, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I was pregnant the entire time up until about a month before I had my son. Worked out the whole time, trained the whole time. Before him, I was still a trainer, and I had my daughter, and I trained, I did group fitness and personal training, pregnant all the way up to the end, and worked out the whole time too. So,
yeah, and it feels good to work out the whole time.
Absolutely, yes.
I obviously, had Burn, thankfully, through all three of my pregnancies, and I have worked with so many pregnant members, so I'm sure you have too, even in your previous job. And so tell us a little bit about, when somebody comes up to you, we're usually the first to find out when a member's pregnant. Because, of course, their first question is, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to modify? Is it still safe to work out? So, what would be your advice for somebody that just found out they're pregnant and they come to you, and want to know?
I would just say, first of all, thank you for telling us, because they don't always tell us. And we do need to know that. But just to listen to your body. Don't try to go, balls to the wall like you normally would if you are normally that kind of in the gym. But at the same time, you don't have to worry about, what old school, don't get your heart rate over a certain amount. You really just have to listen to what you're used to, and then your body, of course, that day, especially in that first trimester. You could be dehydrated from morning sickness if you suffer from that, or it may be that you feel fine or you're just really tired. I would also suggest to stick to your routine. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you need to just change your whole, because what you're used to is what's going to, if you're usually a 5 a.m. person, stick to that as best as you can. Give yourself grace, of course. But, Yeah,
I can remember I was pretty nauseous during all three of my pregnancies, just in that first trimester. And of course, if you are currently working out, you are so afraid that your body's going to start to change. You're going to lose all the gains. You're going to lose all the work that you've done. I know I was eating a lot more carbs during that first trimester just to keep my stomach settled. And I, as much as it got into my head, I would encourage women that are going through that. They're like, hey, you are feeling your body. You need to listen to what it needs. And it's going to change likely. Once I hit that second trimester, I actually started craving, good foods again, and fruits and vegetables and meat again. And our body goes through such weird things. And so, that first trimester, you really need to give yourself grace. And I love your advice about just sticking to the routine the best you can, even if you're just coming to camp and going through the motions, and talking to your trainer. So, they're likely, if they don't know, they're going to be pushing you. They're going to be like, what's going on? Why are you slacking today, Emily? But they want to know, right? And so they can kind of know that they shouldn't push you.
And I always encourage them to, at this point, you're not training for, you are training for a marathon, but a different type. But you're not training for the athlete games. You're not training for a bikini contest. You're training for labor. And you're building a baby. So you need to keep that in mind. And that's why you come to the gym, not So your body is going to change for sure.
So I think there's a couple questions I want to go through too that most people are probably asking us as trainers or asking themselves, asking their doctors. And this is certainly, we are not doctors here, so you should always consult with your doctor if you are not sure what you should be doing or just not feeling comfortable. Of course, when I'm asked these questions, I'm giving it to you from my experience, from working with other women, and just, but I do want to say, always ask a doctor. So when should modifications start?
Oh, okay. So I always tell them, I always ask them how many weeks, especially if it's one of those times where I didn't know they were pregnant and they kind of start to show. But I always tell them, when you start to feel a pull, when you're in a plank, push-up, whatever it is. If you feel any kind of, you need to start doing that incline, putting those hands up. And even towards the end, you really shouldn't be in a plank at all. So I always talk to them about those modifications. Of course, you should be feeling that. As you get further along in your pregnancy, lateral moves, you need to be careful with those because everything's, soft, easier.
Relaxed.
Yep, relaxed, easily injured. So I try to show them modifications, like if it's hurdle hops or even just taking away the hurdle and doing front hops back and forth, just those sort of things.
Yeah.
This is my experience. Don't believe in the myth that you can't be on your back. As long as you're moving, like glute bridges are a great modification, even on core days, go into a glute bridge, as long as you keep moving, even in the further along in your pregnancy when you're closer to the end, it's still safe. So.
I always would just check myself if I ever got dizzy or any sort of weird feeling, I would just, roll back over.
Roll over.
Because I used to think, well, wait, I sleep sometimes on my back. But
or when you go into the doctor's office, they still put you on your back, so
Yeah, I love that. And core days, I think I would always get that question I'm just not going to come to a core day or, there's not much I can do. And believe it or not, there's still a lot you can do to support your core. Because remember, it's not just your stomach. It's all the way around in that midsection. And so, again, talking with your trainer during those core days, but there was still a lot that I could do and slow down but stay moving in that routine. So I would still recommend coming to core days, but just knowing that you're going to have to modify.
And most core days are conditioning as well, so you can always modify it that way too.
Yep. All right, another big one I get is, can I still take pre-workouts?
Yes. No, you cannot. I wouldn't recommend it. And so I always get that question, and well, how do you wake up, especially since you go at 5 a.m.? And I would either get up, drink coffee, or just go off of natural energy as best as I could, just the motivation of getting there. I'm not trying to work out as hard as I would if I wasn't pregnant, so which was the point of pre-workout, too, to kind of push you a little
I
bit
always
more.
prioritize my coffee over a pre-workout because, you do want to limit your caffeine during pregnancy, and so there's nothing that's harmful in our pre-workout Ignite.
Right.
There are some out there
that
can make you feel a lot more tingly and things like that. But you just have to really monitor what that caffeine intake looked like. So I was team coffee too, for sure. Can I still drink protein powder?
I did. I absolutely did. I actually, because I try to get protein in every meal. That's one of the things I stuck with as far as habits go, is just fitting in that protein just so I could carry that on after my pregnancy. So it depends on the protein, I think, and always check with your doctor. But I did.
Yep, so. I did too. Protein is an essential building block, and if you think about it, if you don't get enough protein in, whether it's through a protein shake, a supplement, or real whole foods, you're building all those organs, all that skin, that tissue, all the things in your new baby, and so you want to make sure that they have those building blocks as well. So the nutrients that you are eating are passing through to your baby.
Exactly.
So making sure it's a clean source of protein, making sure there's nothing in there that your body doesn't need. All right, should I lift as heavy as I normally would?
I would suggest not, only because you already have so much pressure down there, and you need to save your pelvic floor. And you have nothing to prove at this point in the gym. You don't need to show anybody up. You already are carrying more weight. I do not suggest it. I don't mean you shouldn't be trying to max out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. I did a podcast several months ago at this point, but I did talk about that too, where in my first pregnancy, I was trying to stay as strong as I was because a little bit of ego, a little bit of just fear of losing strength and just fear of not being able to do what I used to do. And so I was doing double unders with a big belly, pull-ups, and listen, I see that on Instagram and I just cringe because I personally know for myself, I probably really wrecked my pelvic floor during that time. And I didn't know as much about pelvic floor, even as a trainer, it wasn't something that I learned at my OBGYN. It wasn't something that I really learned about even through my CPT. But I've learned so much now because I've had 3 children. Right. And now I'm just more conscious when I'm training people of hey, you've got all that weight in your uterus and that's sitting right on your pelvic floor. So anytime you're bouncing and putting that weight on it, all we're doing is stretching that hammock out, right? And it's going to make it even harder to get it back together. And so, some women are able to do it. Try not to compare yourself to those women.
Exactly.
And if it's feeling heavy and it's feeling, you're starting to pee a little bit, it's time to stop.
Yes.
It's time to back it up a little
Exactly.
bit because you don't want to do damage when your body is in that. Same with like your abs. You know,
Yeah.
your abs separate, your pelvic floor loosens. So you want to make sure during that time that you're not doing anything to make it worse.
Right.
So
Yep.
I agree. It's you're not trying to win a marathon
No.
or win athlete games
No.
during pregnancy.
Training for labor.
Yes. All right. Women who are trying to get pregnant ask if high intensity cardio prevents them from getting pregnant. Is that
Yep.
something that you've heard a lot, or that there's a misconception out
Amongst
there?
the gym, yes. And there's definitely, like, they're just worried that's going to keep them from, like, if they're too, I think it falls more into they've heard that if they work out too hard, it can prevent, or it could cause infertility.
Okay.
But I think it's more where they're getting that from is people with lower body weight.
Yeah,
from
body
working out.
fat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's where that comes from, which is usually not, that's usually very rare.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do also just with your nutrition.
Yeah.
And when, like, again, going back to your body fat. And I remember when I was training for a bikini show, I lost my periods. And that was like a big red
Yeah.
flag for me to say, this could impact me having a family one day.
Yeah.
So I quit the show and I scaled way back.
Yeah.
And so I think that you have to work out a lot and
Yes, you do.
really hard and then eat, restrict your
Yes,
calories.
almost nothing.
So I think, if you're someone that's coming to burn, that's not high intense. That's
Right.
going to create something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now let's kind of shift towards postpartum. You've been postpartum
Yes.
twice, and we're postpartum for life now. So
Yes.
that is just a wonderful thing. But, we hear a lot, why am I peeing myself? I touched on it a little bit, but what would be, your explanation when a member asks
Well,
you?
so my first child, I also run a lot, and you get that 6 weeks, you're good to go, and they don't do a good job in the doctor's office telling you, they don't know what kind of exercise you're doing.
Yep. Yep.
And I went and run for a neighborhood, came back, and I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And so that's how I learned about it, obviously, and then now I just tell them, when members ask me, I give them a lot of good Instagram handles that they show you the exercises that are important to do while you're pregnant, postpartum, even, when you're not technically postpartum anymore,
Yeah.
to do them daily for women if they're, there's a lot of good people out there to follow that show you the exercises to do.
Yep.
That are so important.
Yeah, like you said, they don't tell you how to, increase your pelvic floor, strengthen that back up. And so that is the biggest thing that I wish was in postpartum care for women, is like how to strengthen your pelvic floor again. So like Emily said, be mindful of some of those exercises. Just because you've been cleared postpartum doesn't mean you're ready to go back to pre-pregnancy.
Right.
You have to really gradually build back up that strength, not just in your core, but your pelvic floor and then your muscles, right? You have likely, lost some of that muscle mass. And so it's normal to not be able to pick up the 20s like you used to do. And you're going to have to work to build that back up. You're also postpartum, you're waking up in the middle of the night. If you're breastfeeding, that's depleting a lot of energy, a lot of nutrients, that's burning a lot of calories, just producing milk. And so taking that all into consideration postpartum, and making sure your expectations are realistic.
Yeah.
So if you could give one piece of advice for anyone listening to this, that's either pregnant, thinking about getting pregnant, or postpartum, and exercise is an important part of their life, what advice would you give them?
It already is important in their life.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, just stick to your routine. Talk to your trainers beforehand. Make sure they know, especially if it's someone like I don't train. So I'm a pop in because I'm also a teacher. So and I train more in the summer. So we don't always know, and we do need to know that information. And then also eating. If you ate healthy before you were pregnant, I would suggest eating the same as much as you can. Again, allowing grace, but and I don't call it a diet. I call it a lifestyle. So you should be eating whole foods, fitting in that protein. Your baby needs that as well. And just remember, on those days that you don't feel like working out, you never regret a workout, even when you're pregnant.
Yes.
You can always nap later, hopefully, and if not, just go to bed early.
All right. I've got a couple of rapid fire questions that I'm going to do before we wrap up, okay? So, what is always in your fridge?
Cottage cheese.
Ooh, that's a good one. What's your favorite protocol?
Body weight conditioning.
Okay, I like that one too. What's your favorite Burn nutrition product?
The vegan protein.
Oh yeah,
powder.
the plant protein. Chocolate or vanilla?
I've only tried the vanilla because we make snacks with it.
Oh, chocolate's really good too.
Okay,
I
I'll
like a
get
good
that one
chocolate
next.
one. Favorite exercise?
Burpees.
Most feared exercise?
Ooh.
Or least
Oh,
favorite?
that's easy. Thrusters or squat to press.
Okay. If you could travel anywhere, where would you go?
Anywhere tropical.
Okay.
I like it hot.
Yes, it's the winter time when
Yeah,
we're
I know,
recording
right?
this, so we would love some sunshine in a warm beach. Favorite workout shoes?
I wear On Clouds.
Ooh, I like those too. All right, last one, pink lemonade or peach pre-workout?
Oh, pink lemonade. Yeah.
All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for being on the podcast, Emily. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and you will never miss an episode. And we will talk to you guys soon. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.